On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are discussing Strange New Worlds 105, Spock Amok, right after these very important words from our mystery sponsors.
Amok, 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 amok.
Amok you.
There. Welcome to Star Trek Universe, podcast where you get to listen to lifelong friends talk about Star Trek. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Robertson.
I thought it was over. I thought I got through it. For those of you just joining us, which is all of you, I've been sitting here hacking up my lungs because I was eating a breakfast burrito and I guess an egg or piece of sausage went down the wrong pipe. And I've been sitting here coughing and trying to compose myself to podcast. And as soon as we said our hellos, I'm like, so
Yeah.
Hopefully there won't be too much more of that in the podcast. And what there will be, I'll try to edit.
Yeah, I fell asleep on the couch in the living room last night, and I wake up to our cat going,
Oh, gosh.
I was like, no. It's like I can't get away from people hacking and vomiting all over the place.
You fell asleep again this afternoon, then woke up and got on the cast instead of the couch, and then a mat instead of a cat. It's a lot of parallels
cat.
here. Sliding doors stuff going on.
Yeah. And you too are afraid of vacuum cleaners.
And that's true. That's true. You've seen my house. Mentioning sliding doors and parallels, I have to mention, just for the audience here, go see Everything Everywhere All at Once. Just go. Don't even watch a trailer. Don't care. Just go. It's the best. It's the best. It's the best freaking movie I've ever seen. It's so good.
I would like to see it. I got your text too late.
Yeah, I know. I texted Dave the other night when me and my buddy Gary were going, and I was like, hey, we're going at 9:20. And he texted me at 10:30. Do you have a time machine or whatever?
Yeah.
Help me locate my time machine. All right, well, let's talk about this Strange New Worlds episode. Spock Amok.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of hijinks.
Oh, God. That was my least favorite thing about the episode, probably.
What?
I'll get to it. But look, I love how each episode so far has focused on a different character.
Yeah.
And I feel like Discovery could learn something from this show. They are already succeeding where Discovery has taken, 4 years and not done nearly as well in developing their characters.
I'd push back a little bit. I mean, I think I agree with you. They don't do it as well as quickly, but I mean, I think there are a number of well-developed characters on Discovery. I know that we kind of joke about, and it's somewhat true. I think they don't do it. They're not doing it as well as they do it here. But Stamets, for instance, is a character that I really care about. Culber's a character that I really care about. I don't know. A lot of the Tilly, they've done a good job, but it's taken 4 years.
Yeah,
and I do think they're doing it much quicker and more intentionally here.
Mm-hmm.
Partially because they don't seem to be trying to build a season-long arc. Really, it's like there may be some season-long stuff that happens, especially character arcs. Mm-hmm. There's not a galactic ending threat that's on its way, and I think this is where I don't know. Maybe it's just where Star Trek thrives. I don't know. I dig it a lot.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Loving the dream sequence on Vulcan. That was pretty perfect. As far as I could tell, it looks like they took the set from Amok Time from the original series and just put it there and gave it cinematic lighting instead of that perfect even television lighting from the 60s.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed with that. To me, that was, part of the thing where I was like, this is what I've been talking about, where you could just grab that aesthetic and light it a little differently. And suddenly it looks dope as shit, dude.
Yeah. Great moment.
I was the Vulcan people standing there with their, I don't even know what they're called. Bethany called them the Dunit bells. It's like it's the doing it bells.
Okay.
Yeah, like the little racks where they like shake it and the bells go ding 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 ding.
Yep.
During the marriage ceremony or whatever. It's them doing it bells. And then later when T'Pring and Spock are in their quarters, they have bells that they ring, and she's like, "It's more doing it bells." That was funny.
That's great. I was gonna say that it makes you could call them wedding bells. That's
doing it bells,
it's wedding ceremony bells. But those ones in the bedroom are definitely doing it bells.
No, it's doing it, and is now doing it. Vulcan, very complex race. If it's a wedding, then maybe they're wedding bells, but they're also doing it bells. Mm-hmm. And then, like, when you're in the bedroom, it's definitely doing it bells.
Depends on the pitch you're ringing. It's like Chinese, where it's a pitch language.
Yeah. And then, you back to the planet surface, and now it's time to call Caliphie. And that's going to be fighting bells, them fighting bells. Mm-hmm. But that's still kind of doing it bells.
Yeah.
You're doing it. You're getting down to it.
Go with the Nike aesthetic.
You slitting some throats.
All right. So, yeah. I don't know. You said you didn't like the hijinks. I even liked the line about the hijinks, but I liked the fact that this episode is pretty there's no danger really in this episode. I mean, there's how many episodes have we had of Star Trek lately that haven't had the danger of death? You know what I mean? And like, even in all the series, a lot of times they have to have that moment of like, oh, but watch out. Now now the game we've been playing is going to kill everybody if we don't solve it. This was just like, and I understand there was the threat of, this race not joining the Federation, but like that was kind of treated pretty lightly. It wasn't treated as like an existential threat. I don't know. It just made it an enjoyable episode.
Yeah. When I say hijinks, like I specifically just don't really care for Freaky Friday, for that trope.
Oh yeah.
And there's only been like one time that I liked that trope, and that was on Justice League Unlimited. When Flash and Lex Luthor swapped, and Lex Luthor was like, well, on the bright side, I can at least find out the true identity of the Flash. And he goes over to the mirror and takes off the mask and goes, I have no idea who this is.
That's awesome. Well, I don't know. I guess I don't have a connection or a aversion to that trope. But I enjoyed it here. I thought it was used to good effect, like in the relationship, but also in the, like whatever, making the hijinks of like T'Pring trying to solve Spock's thing and Spock trying to solve T'Pring's thing with very little knowledge or the skill set to do so. Made them both respect each other. I connected with the entire idea of just like trying to make a relationship better by really seeing through each other's eyes. I think it was done in a very light and silly way here, but like I dug it. Yeah,
they didn't do it poorly. It wasn't a bad Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. And it was an enjoyable episode. I didn't have any real big problems with the episode, honestly.
We always call it a Freaky Friday situation, and that's like, where does this concept come from? Surely Freaky Friday isn't the first to do it.
I don't know.
Surely there's like an older science fiction or like I don't know, like a Greek myth or something. Like I feel like this has got to be like an idea from the past. If Freaky Friday really came up with it, like that's very impressive.
No, I don't think they did. But hold on, I'll look. When did Freaky Friday come out? Okay. Well, this is a Star Trek show. All right. The original film came out in 1976, which means we should be referring to it as a Turnabout Intruder because the original series did it before Freaky Friday did it.
Well, there you go.
So we'll call it a Turnabout Intruder, which is not fair because I hate Turnabout Intruder. It's a terrible episode.
Oh no, it's funnier and clearer to call it Freaky Friday. I was just curious, where that trope comes from, like where in media or literature that was first used.
I mean, I doubt Turnabout Intruder was the first to do it.
Me too.
I feel like I'm not remembering a Twilight Zone episode or something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, it's got to be in literature somewhere too. I'm just not. It's not in my. It's not in my cultural Rolodex in my brain.
Back before Turnabout Intruder, swapping bodies meant something different. Woo! Key parties.
Key parties all day.
Woo!
But what'd you think of the Signing the Scorch storyline?
It was fine. I meant to like go back and pause it to see if there were any names I recognized, like,
oh yeah,
anybody from the Cage or anything. But I actually did really enjoy the Enterprise Bingo story.
Yeah, me too.
I liked that La'an and Una are just not the type who like to go on shore leave. They like to be on the ship.
Right. And we've talked about it a little bit, the idea that those two have that storyline in like I guess second or third episode where they kind of have this reason to hate each other. But they decide in that episode not to. We've been talking about how maybe that would rear its head as more antagonism, but no, in this episode they're really becoming closer friends because they have that similarity of they're the type that doesn't want to be a part of the party, so they'll sit alone or sit together and be each other's friends.
Yeah.
And I dug that. I think that's very realistic and very true to life. And, seeing them trying to have a little fun. Although, they did good cop, bad cop wrong.
Uh-huh.
Good cop, bad cop is when you go in, one of you acts like a mean person and one of you acts like a good person. So the person in front of you turns to the good person who's reasonable and talks to them. And they're willing to give more information because they see the threat of the other person.
Yeah.
But they separated them in two separate rooms and they said, I get good cop, I get bad cop. And then they interrogated different suspects. That's not how good cop, bad cop works.
Yeah. But I think they wound up swapping at some point as well.
Did they?
But maybe not. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think they combined the whole thing into one room, but I think they did good cop, bad cop wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they did swap.
If Enterprise Bingo is just a list of things you have to do, that's also not bingo.
It's a good point. That's a good point.
I mean,
at least that's a thing in the parlance. Like we call it like, oh, this wasn't on my pandemic bingo card. And it's like, a thing we weren't expecting or whatever.
Yeah. It makes sense, though, that like Star Trek writers wouldn't know how to play games.
What? That's just not true.
What? It's like, beep, beep, boop, boop. We don't know what good cop, bad cop is. Boop, boop. We do not know what bingo is. We have never had friends.
Oh,
that's how Star Trek fans are, right?
Yes, 100%. 100%. Good.
And they're robots. Sorry, robots.
This is a really good strategy for reaching out to new listeners.
Right. They're like Star Trek fans are basically like, less social .5s.
For sure.
Just sitting around, blowing their nose, pushing up their glasses.
Listen, as someone who's deeply involved in geek culture, Star Trek fans are exactly the kind of people who know how to play games, though. I mean, they're the ones who read the rule books and teach other people to play games.
But not like cool games.
Oh yeah, like bingo.
Right. Like old people get no.
It's like we're just conceding that like old people are cooler than us. Our generation really went downhill on the cool spectrum. I think there's something to be said for that.
I think it's true.
We stopped caring about that. Like our generation and the ones subsequent to us. I mean, we say it all the time. Like geek culture is now pop culture. The idea of being like really into like geeky shit is now like way more cool, way more accepted and way more like honored in our culture than like, being a cool guy in a leather jacket who rides a motorcycle or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't know. I think at a certain point, like certain things, like if you're like a Star Wars fan or a Marvel fan and you say like, I'm a Star Wars geek, I'm a Marvel geek, that's mainstream. You're not a geek anymore. It's over. You're one of the cool kids.
It depends. Like there are actual Star Wars geeks and Marvel geeks who are really into the deep lore of it. They like the comics or whatever. They like the original trilogy. They really dig into that old stuff. But then, But I mean, you could say the same thing about Star Trek. I've met people lately who love Star Trek. Yeah, no, I've met people lately who love Star Trek, and all they've seen is 2009 Star Trek.
Oh,
isn't that strange? I met someone
weird.
A few months ago. I was talking to him. He was like, "Oh, I love Star Trek." I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." Like, what? That question. What Star Trek do you like? Because it can really be a key into like what kind of geek you are into this. And he was like, "Oh man, the new one, the 2009 movies." He didn't call them that. He just called them the Chris Pine, like that, the new movies. Yeah. And I was like, weird. I feel like you're a unicorn, sir. But there are those, And not that makes that person pop culture. Like that's not pop culture either yet, or like not the biggest pop culture.
It will be one of those things, and I hate to say it, but it's going to happen. And I don't even hate those movies. I enjoy those movies. But it will. You remember when we were coming up? And everybody hated the Star Wars prequels.
Sure.
Right. But now, a lot of people.
That's their Star Wars.
That was their Star Wars. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that was theirs. And they're just like, oh yeah, whatever. Original trilogy. Prequels.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre, but like, that's what's going to happen with Star Trek, the JJ Trek or Kelvinverse or whatever we want to call it.
Sure. Sure, absolutely.
Where people are like, I don't know nothing about that Bill Shatner bullshit, but Chris Pine, that's my Star Trek.
Well, see, I don't know. I mean, yes, there will be people like that, and I met one the other day, but I don't know that it will ever be like a big...
you can no, those people, I don't know that those people will exist. Well, you just met one, Matt.
What I mean is that's a huge trend in Star Wars. Like, it's a big trend shifting towards that. As the people who grew up with those movies age into, being the talking heads on various podcasts and stuff. But
not anything of note, just assholes on the internet talking.
Yeah. I mean, the fan culture, I'm hearing more and more of that in the fan culture stuff. But I don't know. I feel like the problem with culture right now is it all moves so fast. So as much as I think those movies are good, and I think there are people who loved them, and there were people who even that was their entry into Star Trek. I don't know that those movies, they weren't the cultural moment that the Star Wars prequels were,
Yeah, they weren't. They
didn't last as long as in our minds. Even when people, thought Phantom Menace was just okay, they were still incredibly excited for episode 2 because everyone wanted to know the backstory for the Empire.
Everyone was vying to be disappointed.
Yep. I've always enjoyed Star Wars. I talked about this a lot lately because I've been doing Obi-Wan watches over on the Star Wars Universe podcast. And I've been watching Clone Wars, and I just been watching Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is my Star Wars. Man, that's so much better than any other Star Wars I've ever seen.
The best thing I've ever seen of Star Wars is literally just Bill Burr ranting at that Admiral in Mandalorian and then blowing his brains out.
Yeah. Yep. That's pretty great.
That's it. That's all I need. I don't ever have to watch another Star Wars anything.
Yeah. No, that's pretty great. I like parts of the Mandalorian pretty well, and I like that's probably most of it. And I like the Mandalorian parts of Boba Fett. But Obi-Wan has been my favorite thing Star Wars has probably ever done. I'm really liking Obi-Wan a lot.
I really do. I like Timothy Oliphant from The
Mandalorian and Boba Fett.
I like that guy.
Yeah, he was great.
I haven't really watched a lot of any of it. I'm just kind of floating through and sitting down and eating a salad or eating a piece of pizza while my wife watches it and then moving on to the next thing. Right.
Catching bits and pieces, not really watching it all. I've seen it all, and I've recently watched most of Clone Wars, and, I still just feel, it's still not my fandom, you know what I mean? But I think that Obi-Wan is, the best, for me, it's the best show they've done, because it's just so, they're actually, making a show where I care about the character. He's a character that has a great failure in his past, the failure of Anakin, and they're really making him a character on the show instead of just being hey, it's Star Wars, you should like it because it's Star Wars. It looks doesn't this look like Star Wars? That's how I feel about most of the Star Wars I've seen. It's like fine storylines, and it just looks like Star Wars.
I want him to be like so traumatized by the past with Anakin that he literally has like a fake Anakin in his like pad or whatever. He's like, he talks to, and he calls it mannequin. And it's just like he's going nuts, you know?
That's a little further than they go, but it's not too much. He's pretty scarred, he's pretty like lonely, and he's pretty like regretful of the past. I'm digging it a lot.
Like, yeah, I mean, I do want to watch all that stuff. I want to get to it eventually.
Yeah. I will. You know, if you want, like, they're so out of time with each other and don't like cross over. Mm-hmm. I think if you just wanted to jump in and watch Obi-Wan, like, you don't. You definitely don't need to watch Mando or Boba Fett. They all happen after the original trilogy, anyway.
I watched the majority of an episode the other night.
Oh, and it was Obi-Wan.
It was of Obi-Wan. It was captivating.
Yeah, it's really good.
It really was. I just kind of popped in and I was like, okay, let's see what's happening.
Yeah. Speaking of all that, and just like the idea that culture moves so fast, we're talking about that with the Star Trek movies versus the Star Wars movies, being different cultural moments. Like, I really wonder how much of this Star Trek is going to be indelible to us, even to us who are talking about it every week. You know, like I like it, but it's almost like I'm gorging myself on Star Trek. You know, like it's every week, it's all the time. There's no like waiting for the next thing. I remember, you know, as a kid, you're like, something happens on TNG and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, Lore just captured them at that Power Rangers station, you know? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? It's like 6 months before I find out, you know? And it's like this big wait. And like, so I remember thinking about that episode for 6 months and waiting to hear what happens, you know? And like, yeah, it's a strange thing now because it's like, I can't sit. There's nothing to sit and wait on, you know. And I mean that still happens between seasons, but I'm on to the next show. I'm talking about the next Star Trek, and I'm wondering if it will all feel a little more disposable than the things of the past that you know waited. I mean, and that's the thing. Geek culture is pop culture, so we used to wait on these things for years in between, and now they're just like another Star Wars, another Marvel, another Star Trek all the time. And now you're just kind of soaking in it. You're living in it. And I really, I'm enjoying it immensely, but it also, you know, I wonder the psychological effects of thinking back on this time period of Marvel and Star Trek and Star Wars and being like, yeah, what was Discovery about? I don't remember. Or like, you know what I mean?
I can see that.
Yeah. I don't know.
I know that like Strange New Worlds, for instance, and I'm not coming down on Strange New Worlds. I'm really not. Right. But watching Strange New Worlds, knowing that it's a prequel, that it happens before TOS, supposedly in the timelines, and already having seen some of the little like things in Discovery with Spock and everything, I found, because I was curious because I really wanted to go back and rewatch Arena with the Gorn. I watched that, and I watched What Are Little Girls Made Of, which is a Chapel-heavy episode of the original series. And to my surprise, I found that Strange New Worlds and Discovery had absolutely no bearing on anything in that episode, in those episodes for me. Like, I sat there and watched it as if those shows had not happened, as if they didn't take place, and even found myself wondering, I wonder what their past looked like. Like,
yeah, no, you've seen
like,
it.
It's just, there's like a disconnect for me. And that might be just because I'm an old geek. I'm almost 40 and I grew up on the original series. And I always thought, like, I wonder what that looks like. And I'm not seeing the connect between Strange New Worlds and the original series. So, like, just because it's new, you know, maybe it's because in some part of my brain, I don't consider it part of the same actual universe.
Right.
Like, there's some sort of like, but, and it might just be because it's new. I don't know. Because when I watch the original series, I still don't think of Enterprise, like, coming before it at all. Like, I'm just like, yeah, because when you watch like those old episodes of original series, like, you know, it sounds like the way they talk about stuff outside of the Federation, it's like Firefly, dude. It's like,
yeah,
and stuff in the past, just like, oh my God, that sounds so primitive and weird. So, there's some kind of disconnect for me, and it might just be because original series is what I knew first, and
sure,
I think I might just, there might be a disconnect for me after DS9. Like, I think somewhere around the end of DS9 is where I just go, like, I don't really remember stuff from Star Trek after that. To answer your question, like,
man, that's a ways back.
I'll watch it and I'll enjoy it, or I won't. But
well, see, and that's what I
don't remember it.
I'm wondering. Like, I think that, and this is particularly pronounced with Strange New Worlds because I don't think it's supposed to be the show you think of as like this epic. It's not an epic so far, at least. It's very much a episodic show that feels like you can throw it on and enjoy it, which is what TNG is to me, or a lot of DS9 is to me. Like, I can turn on any episode at any point in the run and enjoy it. DS9 for me, there's like the Dominion War stuff that is very important, but even the Dominion War stuff, they do a good job of keeping it episodic enough that I'm just like, I'm going to throw this on and watch it anytime. And that's part of the reason I remember it is because I've seen those episodes a lot of times.
Right.
I think they're trying for that with Strange New Worlds. Discovery does not feel that way at all. It feels like you need to sit down and watch a season of this and to really understand what, all the characters are going through and their emotional states and stuff. And that's just not what this show is. And I'm excited about that. I think that this could be that thing that we we could rewatch over and over. But the problem is it seems that there was news this week that they're like really planning to have something come out every week on Paramount Plus of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, when will I rewatch this stuff? When will I feel hunger for Star Trek again?
Lord, when?
Right. Which, and I don't want to feel hunger for Star Trek. I'm happy to be in it all the time, but it makes me wonder about the connection I will draw to these episodes when I don't need to revisit them. When it's just like, oh, that's Star Trek that passed through. It's like passed through me Star Trek food,
Yeah, I love the idea of a Star Trek fan who is sitting around complaining that they're hungry for Star Trek, and then when they get nothing but Star Trek, they say, I miss the hunger.
See, and no, absolutely. And that's why I'm saying, like, I'm not unhappy that it's here at all. I'm very happy that it's here. I'm wondering about how it affects my enjoyment and how it affects my thinking of these things as epic. Like, thinking of these things as, like, the biggest thing going on in media right now for me. I mean, I even felt that way with like Doctor Who, a few of those seasons. Like when the 50th anniversary stuff happened and they had like 3 doctors interacting and it's like all that stuff. I was like, this is huge. This is so cool and huge. And I haven't felt that way lately. And now there are shows like Moon Knight recently. Like at the end of Moon Knight, I cared immensely about what was happening internally in that show. And even Discovery, I cared a lot about the 10C, but I'm wondering, like, what will I think back on that season as something that was like a moment in my life that I remember? I don't know. Anyway, that's more of a philosophical discussion that I'm sure will continue.
Let me run back to Amok Time and quote or paraphrase Spock. Wanting is not so pleasurable thing after all as having. Or having is not so pleasurable thing as wanting.
Yeah. Wonderful line.
That's a way we could look at it with Star Trek. Like, oh God, we have Star Trek every week. I kind of miss not having it for a minute. Giving us a break.
I do really enjoy, and that's what Marvel's been doing lately. Is like for a while they did it every week. There was something, and they started doing these like 2 months off, and then you come back to a show, and I'm like. I like Miss Marvel starts this week and I haven't had anything Marvel in a month and I'm like, Miss Marvel, let's do it. Let's find out what Miss Marvel's about.
And I think there's a part of me that's like, we have all these shows like Doctor Who, like you mentioned, we have Star Trek now doing this again. We have Marvel, we have all this stuff. And I really just, I feel like these things will never end. Because they're all franchises, and I'm like Data now in Picard season 1. I long for death. I just want closure and an ending. I want the end of the story, and then no more. part of me,
Right.
Like,
Well, and I think you can get that. They did that with Marvel, and I'm really appreciative of what they did with Endgame. They did an end to the story. Not the end of the world. The world still exists, but that is the end of a 10-year arc. And maybe Star Trek needs to start aiming towards that kind of stuff, where make some of these shows have some interesting crossover material, some interesting Section 31 stuff that's going on, and tell elements of the story maybe on different shows, crossover stuff. That's always exciting, like they did with the CW stuff. And then give me endings, give me character deaths, give me resolutions instead of always continuing. But then again, I'm the guy who Rios had his big leaving of the show last in Picard, and I was like, but I wanted more Rios, but that's the thing, that desire of wanting, it's the wanting rather than the having, it really does. Death hurts in a TV show because you want more of that thing, and it's over, and it makes it feel valuable. Those Rios episodes, I mean, thinking about it right now, I care more about those early Rios episodes now that he's gone. I'm like, if I want to see Rios, I am going to go turn on that first season and watch all those versions of Rios holograms running around the ship, I can feel it in myself, feeling sort of value to those episodes that I did not have before. Just like
Book's death in Serenity gives a lot of retconned meaning to the Firefly.
Yeah, absolutely. All the deaths, all the deaths on Serenity really give meaning to those characters and make me passionately long for more of those characters and make me care about them on a rewatch more. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's what we're saying. Really, is we need
people to die.
Well, we need intentionality of closure.
Yeah,
and that happens over time. We need directionality. We need intentionality. Like Voyager. Voyager's a good example of this. They were heading home, so even and DS9 the same way. There's the Dominion War. It's like the Dominion were mentioned in the first season, and then they sort of slowly drip them in. And then it becomes this big thing. What's the first Alpha Quadrant or Alpha Beta Quadrant race to encounter the Dominion?
I don't remember, man.
Ferengi. they think they can. I think it's Quark or the Nagus find out about the Dominion, and they're like, oh, maybe there's a whole bunch of people we can sell things to. That's the whole thing.
I do remember that episode. I didn't realize it was the first one.
Yeah, first mention of the Dominion. It's that's in the first season, and then they slowly drip it in, and it becomes this war. And it's the directionality of the prophets and Cisco as the emissary, and all that stuff. As much as, but still being episodic and fun to watch, but driving towards a bigger themes and arcs. And I guess we kind of have that with Pike and his trying to understand his own mortality. In this very interesting way.
It does serve to rob us of a certain amount of stakes between that being a prequel and between knowing what his fate is, and him knowing what his fate is. But I mean, whatever. There are plenty of other stakes.
Yeah, and I guess zooming out with Discovery, we have the sort of reestablishing of the Federation is very interesting. And that's my favorite part, honestly. That's some of my favorite stuff is seeing those little drips of how they advance, how their story is advancing as the episodic stuff is happening.
On this episode, I thought it was interesting that Chapel is giving Spock relationship advice and knows about T'Pring, because in TOS, it looked like when he had said, T'Pring is my wife, Chapel looked shocked. She was like,
yeah, I remember that. I wonder, I mean, you can headcanon it all day. It sounds like that was just not supposed to be the way it went, is that she knew about it. And I'm assuming probably in this show, wait, his wife, does he say his wife in the show, or they're betrothed, I thought, right?
I think he says his wife on TOS.
Oh, okay. I thought they were betrothed and they were supposed to get married, and then she employs, instead of wedding, she wants battle or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it could work differently. It might work, wife and betrothed is the same thing in
Vulcan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe they're just betrothed and he says wife, so it's another instance of TOS not being, canon with itself.
Well,
he said wife for shock factor.
Well, it's the same episode, so then they go on to...
Yeah,
so it's like,
I know.
I don't know that it's a canon.
He said my wife, and then they come back from commercial, he's like, well, we're engaged.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, that really is what happens. Like, that's weird. It's like they did that just to get that reaction from Chapel. Uh-huh. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe like, to headcanon it, like, she's like, wait, that happened already? What? How did we not know this? You know what I mean? Like, I am shocked.
It's been like 10 years. How do you not? What? I thought you just y'all just called it off or something. By the way, I will say this, and I can't believe I haven't said this before in the episode, in this episode. I am officially, and I didn't think this would happen, I am officially now, I like this version of Nurse Chapel more than the original series.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
That is huge for me.
That is really huge for you.
Spock still Nimoy all the way. But
wow, that's huge, dude. That's a big. I do really like this Nurse Chapel. And this episode with Nurse Chapel and Ortega, like we got these little duos this episode. I mean, obviously T'Pring and Spock switching bodies is and them working as a team to fulfill each other's things. I thought that was. I wish there'd been a little more communication between them. Like, hit your communicator and ask questions or something. Like it seems a little weird. They send them in opposite directions.
Well, anyone who's been in a long-term relationship knows you have to work together to fill each other's things.
Indeed. It's a team effort.
I'm Dave and I'm 12.
And then you get Ortega and Chapel. And is it just me, or she mentions she's bisexual, correct? Chapel?
Yes.
Because she mentions a female,
she had a
mentions
fling.
a lady that she had a fling with, and then she mentions we see her on the date with the dude. I mean, like they're just friends, but I definitely got vibes of Ortega and her maybe having like a little bit of a connection.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Really?
So far.
Oh, I did.
I just call it their friends.
Regardless, I enjoyed them a lot. That last moment when they're sitting on the couch together or something, and they're like, there's just some looks between them that I was like, there might be something brewing there.
Maybe, but I don't see it. But maybe I'm wrong. But also the thing I'm excited about is someone said that how they should have mentioned Roger Corby in that little like list of people that she had dated, because Roger Corby is who she like followed into. That's why she went to Starfleet in the first place. That's the dude from What Are Little Girls Made Of, who turns out that he died and transferred his brain over to an android body. But that was like Chapel's great love. That was her fiance. And Akiva Goldsman commented on Twitter and said, stand by. So we're going to get some Roger Corby.
Nice.
Anyway. Yeah. That's not as exciting for you, I guess.
No, I don't know. I don't know that episode, so no. But yeah, that's cool. I like the using canon to build this world out. I dig that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the other, of course, we talked about it a little bit, but Una and La'an, they're the other duo. So it's like these three duos kind of traipsing around the ship, all sort of doing hijinks, dating hijinks, body switch hijinks, and, like classic sort of like senior officers trying to get in on what the, enlisted are doing or whatever.
I was talking to somebody on Twitter, and I don't know that they're a listener. And they didn't say it was specifically for feedback or anything, so I won't say their name. But it was someone I talked to on Twitter, and they were complaining about, one, that there was chewing gum. Because we've never seen chewing gum on Star Trek, apparently.
Really?
I thought we had. Didn't we see that in like some kind of baseball-centric thing on DS9?
Yeah, I feel like maybe somebody was like,
are they chewing gum?
Chew it. I want to say like maybe Worf was like, you just chew it, like he was like weirded out by it.
I want to say there was like a reference to it when they were like the baseball card episode where Jake was trying to get that card or whatever for his dad.
Okay, yeah.
And then maybe there was like take me out to the holosuite they were talking about.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Take me out to the holosuite.
I didn't do any research. I don't know, but it if the original Enterprise has signs on the bridge that say no smoking on the bridge, we can have chewing gum in Star Trek.
Yeah.
And then the other thing he was complaining about was Christmas, like, because they said it's like Christmas. And I was like, well, you know, right now, Christmas is already like, what, 70% pagan holiday? Even if you're like, we're not supposed to have religion in the future. Well, in the original series, they had a chapel, and not just a nurse chapel. They had a chapel where Kirk married a couple of crew members, and also they had a Christmas party.
Yeah.
On Dagger of the Mind.
Isn't Pike Christian? Didn't he talk about his faith in Discovery a good bit?
Yeah, some version of it, yeah.
Yeah, they may be mostly men of science and have given up religion in the future, but there are still people that have faith in the future too. Like that's a weird one.
And that's one of those things I would love to explore as a writer on Star Trek. Like, how does that exist in this future, you know? Sure, yeah. But one of my favorite things was always the Prophets. Absolutely. And DS9 in general, just with like... Yeah. Resolving how Kira interacts with the crew and how she interacts with this version of the Federation and stuff, and believes so strongly in her prophets, but at the same time, her prophets were real, very real, and actually encountering them through the orb. So it's like, that they're real. It's just like her religion ended up just being like 100% true. Like maybe not the same. We see it in a different context. They're the wormhole aliens, but like for her, that the stuff she believed was true. You know, it's just. I always thought it was a missed opportunity that they didn't encounter, that the Enterprise never encountered a planet where they had like statues of Q. Or they were like worshiping Q. Yeah. And Picard's just pissed.
That's good. I like that. Well, overall, I just think it's a good episode. I didn't mind it. I feel like there's not a lot. I mean, I feel like maybe you have some things that maybe connect with us to the original series, which you've done a little bit, but
I've done a little bit. I mean, there's some stuff, you know, Spock brings up his Sailot, which was from Journey to Babel in the original series, and then we actually saw the Sailot in the animated series. You know, they brought up because what's her face? T'Pring is working with that guy from the Vatash Couture, which is like the Vulcan movement where they don't believe that logic is like 100% the way or whatever. Or they do. They follow logic, but they have emotions. They kind of veer away from the teachings of Surak. And which I guess Cybok would have been a part of, but that was from Enterprise, not the original series. The Vatash Couture label, anyway.
That's right. I remember them. They were like doing some terrorism, right, in Enterprise.
They were doing some terrorism.
Well, they were.
Yeah.
I stand by it.
But yeah, like, I don't know. Like, we did some, they referenced a private little war because M'Benga had spent time studying Vulcan medicine. So that, you know, they kind of hit back on that. I mean, see, they mentioned the girl that Christine Chapel dated was on Argelius, whatever it was, 2, which was from Enterprise, TOS, Wolf in the Fold. Yeah. I mean, they definitely hit back some stuff from the original series. Yeah. And we do have some feedback if you want to hit that up real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Timothy Castillo says, Dave, to whom I listen to continually, Matt, he who is my most prevalent podcast host. The expectation of Star Trek that I have held within me has not been met by many of the attempts taken to create new and exciting episodes. The last episode was, in a word, fascinating. You guys, fellas, caballeros, bonsoir. Spock could be a different Vulcan. The Enterprise could be a different ship. Pike could be a different captain, etc. Ad infinitum. I don't care. This last episode is the Star Trek I've been waiting for since Picard said he should have done this a long time ago, and Sisko decided to jump off of a cliff. I was annoyed at the last 2 seasons of Disco being 1 or 2 episodes crammed into an entire season. Picard being very much the same thing, drawing everything out so unnecessarily for little to no payoff. I still enjoyed them, but they do not invite a rewatch. This episode may certainly have elements to quibble over, as any episode possibly could, but this one and Memento Mori have been golden highlights for me of what new Trek should really be striving for. One could argue, and indeed be correct, that it was just a silly Freaky Friday rehash, but damn it, Dave, he assumes that's what I'm doing. He assumes. I'm not doing that. I actually, you know what? I really liked the fact that they so quickly told Pike what was going on. You know, they didn't spend the whole episode trying to pretend.
Same. That
saved the premise for me.
Right. Yeah. While there were hijinks, they weren't keeping it a secret. I think that's a big thing that I think we're just tired of that trope. I think that's one of the reasons Marvel got rid of secret identities. Just hiding it from your friends and family is just not funny or fun. It's a lot of fake drama.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate it. But damn it, Dave, I'm a fan, not a critic. I love it.
He's just referencing McCoy there. I got you.
I know what he's doing, but still, it seemed like he was singling me out. I feel attacked, Timothy. I love this series so much, more than any other new hour-long live-action series yet. Well, this isn't an hour long. This is 30 minutes at this point. I hope that this bodes well for the rest of Trek's future. Peace and long life. And then he says, P.S. I am an idiot, so I included a poor quality recording of myself reading the first paragraph, doing my own half-baked impression of Spock. It's for you, Dave. I know you love people trying to be Spock and or Vulcan and failing. Dude, actually, I thought it was pretty good. I won't play it because you said it was just for me, but I thought it was pretty damn good. It was almost as good as Ethan Peck. You're on par, dude. You could play any other Vulcan, just not Spock. But I would have told Ethan Peck the same thing.
Thanks, Timothy. I dig that. That feedback was great.
Yeah.
It's funny that he brings up so many of the themes that we've actually talked about on this episode that seemed like they were, sort of rabbit trails or whatever. But it's really true that I think this show is hitting on this sort of rewatchability that Star Trek hasn't really had lately, and that I think this is a show that Star Trek is I think going to be a little more indelible, even if just because it's that much more rewatchable. You know?
Yeah,
I dig that.
I agree with that.
Good thoughts, Timothy.
Yeah. Stu Little, and this is from last week, or the last episode as well. I have learned from past mistakes, to include the name of Stu's subject line. So he named this one Gornhub.
I just got that, sadly. I think it was hearing it out loud. I got it. I saw that title in the email and I was like, Gornhub. Was there a hub in this episode? I was like, that was more of a Gorn ship, but okay. I get it now. Sorry, Stu. Sorry for being so thick.
Well, that sounds like something that you should say, don't apologize for being thick. It's Gornhub. Everybody's thick on Gornhub. That's the trending kink, thing.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. Yeah. Authenticity.
Oh, is it authenticity?
I don't know.
I think you might be revealing too much about what the algorithm's serving you up there, buddy.
No. I don't go to there. That's a bad place. I have no interest. My burgeoning asexuality,
Burgeoning asexuality. Is that is that an age thing, or is that just
it's exactly an age thing. It is exactly an age thing. I'm getting old, and I'm like, I've seen all that. I don't care about that shit. And by that, I mean Gornhub.
Gornhub, yeah.
It's like Kirk in Arena. I am, as most humans, naturally repulsed by lizards. By reptilians, Stu Little.
What does Stu Little's Gornhub have to say?
He says, "Hey guys." That was it. No. Well, I've enjoyed every episode of the show so far, but I think this was the strongest yet. The Enterprise getting rocked and the crew having to play a game of cat and mouse with a superior force while also dealing with various other crises happening on board made for an eventful but pretty well balanced episode. I really liked the unexpectedly more subtle depiction of the Gorn as they're being built up in a way that feels like how the Reavers were done on Firefly, and a bit like how early TNG tried to make the Ferengi kind of mysterious and threatening. Some other thoughts. What kind of hair products does Pike use that keeps his in place even as the climate controls are on the fritz? I would say the same hair products that Riker used on Generations when the entire ship crashed into a planet and his hair was still perfect. By the way, it's funny, Spock seemed to be sweating the most considering he comes from a hot planet. I really think sci-fi shows should avoid using plasma as a word for blood because it creates momentary confusion with the other meaning of it being a state of matter. Even if technically, yes, a plasma conduit could refer to a blood vein too. No, I'm good. I wasn't confused. I
really like that. I'm definitely, next time the doctor has to stick me, I'm going to be like, can you find a plasma conduit, sir?
Yeah. You don't want to know what they stick. I know that it's sort of out of character for a Federation helmsman, but Ortega's nervous interjections are pretty funny. Why is that blip so much bigger? Didn't our science expert just say that would crush the ship? Just asking, sir. Stu, I'm glad you're digging it, dude. I don't care for it.
Yeah, I gotta say, I thought about your criticism of that last week, of that line, and I disagree with you because I think it's her being funny. Which is like, you know, she knows what it means. She's just panicking. She's like, there's a big, why is there a bigger one? You know, like, why is it bigger? Yeah. What does it mean that it's bigger? Like, she doesn't want to believe it. It's that, like, same sort of disbelief that any character like that
what I was saying is, like, yeah, either she is horribly incompetent or she's just super obnoxious. Either way, I don't dig it.
I find it funny. I like her so far. Yeah. And this episode particularly, her teaming up with Chapel was a lot of fun.
Yeah, makes sense that you would find obnoxiousness funny.
Yeah. I'm friends with you.
I mean, you're friends with me.
Yeah. I like how you heard that. I got to the joke you set me up for, and then you had to rush to try to beat me to it.
Yeah. That's right.
You said it with no delivery, just speed, because you're like, oh no, he got there. Let me take this one. that is like, we often joke about being volleyball funny, where you like set someone up for the joke and then you spike it, right? That is the worst version of that.
That's my favorite version of that.
You like set me up for the joke and then you tried to spike it on me.
No, that's my favorite version of that. I like when people do that with me because it's a feeling of camaraderie. Yeah, it's like a shared laugh, you know. Anyway. Stu says, don't touch the stove, Uhura. Because Emma told her it's hot. And she's like, oh, I'm going to touch it anyway. Anyway, given how creepy he looked as a hallucination, did anyone else think it was going to turn out La'an's brother actually went psycho and killed her family crew, and she just suppressed it by remembering it as the Gorn instead? I could have seen it tying into her feelings about her ancestry if she thought he was like that because of his genes. Honestly, I thought that's where they were going for a minute. Because he did look creepy. He looked like a little serial killing piece of shit.
He definitely had like the just stoic ghost face that, like, you know, stoic ghost boy.
He had that little creepy smile. That from, you know, like that guy from Lie to Me. You remember that guy, the redheaded guy from Lie to Me?
I don't remember that guy, but I love that. Like, I love that show.
He's always got that creepy little face, like the main character on Lie to Me. Always has like this little creepy smile. Like he always looks like he's like smiling while bearing into your soul.
Tim Roth?
That's not Tim Roth.
He's the main character on Lie to Me.
Oh, maybe I'm just mixing him up with somebody else.
Thinking of
another guy. I'm thinking another show.
Yeah, Lie to Me was the Tim Roth show where he's like a lie expert. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Lie to Me's awesome, and Tim Roth is amazing.
No, not Tim Roth.
That's maybe my least favorite cancellation. I loved that show, and I think I was the only one, which is why I got canceled. But I just love Tim Roth, and so him on a show, I was going to watch it. And then it's really, really good. It's a really good show.
Yeah.
It's all pseudoscience BS probably, but I really enjoyed it. So are all the other shows about catching criminals on TV.
Yeah.
That aren't done as well.
Pretty much. Yeah, so I don't know. It's hard to type in creepy guy with a little smile TV show and get like an accurate representation of what you're thinking of.
I appreciate the effort though, Dave. I really do.
There's a redheaded guy. He's on like crime thrillers and shit, and he has a little creepy smile. And he's just annoying. And women think he's really hot. I don't get it.
All right.
Anyway. Maybe I'll update on the show. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Please bring us an update on that. There are a lot of people out here want to know.
I'm sure. Stu says an obvious elephant in the room is the notion that there's not much tension in plans that could threaten the ship's destruction. Not just because it's a prequel, but also because of Pike's knowledge of his own future that can't happen if he dies in the present. However, they get around that by emphasizing that even in surviving, they lost 7 crew members, and Pike still cares about those kinds of losses.
Mm-hmm.
There's still personal stakes like that, and that's enough for me. And with several of the main cast being completely new characters, there's tension with them. Nothing guaranteed that Hemmer would survive the vacuum attempt, just because Uhura would. Strange New Worlds being able to give most of the characters something to do in the plot makes it increasingly difficult to accept Discovery's tendency to not do that. Even the transporter guy got a moment. Next thing you know, we'll see him start to date an Irish botanist. That's it for me. Take care, guys. And then he brings back he comes back and says in a post called Gorn Hub Addendum. I forgot to ask in the previous email, if a Gorn got assimilated, what would you call the new thing? A Gorg? A Born? Just call it a Borg. Just call it a Borg, Stu.
Mm.
That individuality is erased.
All the technological and biological distinctiveness will become their own.
Of course, as we know, Q said they don't care about the crew. They just want the technology back in their first appearance. So
very true.
Maybe at this point in history, they don't care about, the crew. Maybe they wouldn't be assimilating
back then. Of course, that doesn't make any sense since they captured 7 as a child. But
that's right. Well, 7's not 200 years old or 100 years old.
No. But 7's childhood, I think, was before that line in TNG. My point.
Maybe. Then again, maybe Q was just was not up on things.
Yeah, that seems like Q.
He was just like, well, the last I checked, they were just a bunch of assholes going around stealing technology. Oh, no, okay, never mind. That was...
nope, they're... Sorry,
never mind. They've changed.
And then he, blinks away and blinks back, and he's like, okay, I just lived a couple years among the collective. They are dark now. Things went dark over there real fast.
Oh my god!
It's like some Cronenberg body horror happening over on the board side. Yeah. You guys may want to steer clear. Sorry, I threw your ship here.
There's a bitch over there that's just shoulders and a spine. Good merciful Christ! That was a.
Yep, now you're just wanting me a Norm Macdonald as Q.
I do want that.
That would have been a wonderful Q. John Delancey is wonderful, but Norm Macdonald would have been a wonderful Q.
Yeah. Anyway, so Stu says, as for Spock Amok, very entertaining episode, albeit a missed opportunity to have some dialogue where Spock says, I am familiar with Freak Friday, Nurse Chapel.
Is Freak Friday another thing that they do among the ensigns?
I would hope. My God, I hope.
Like casual Friday,
Uh-huh. Like every Friday, you just get you tweak your freak.
Yeah, you got.
If I understand it.
Whatever tweaks your freak, man. My favorite joke this episode was Spock saying, she says, "What are friends for?" And he goes, "What are friends for?" Like in a great delivery of that joke, just a really great delivery of that joke. And then she says, "Oh no, Spock, it was a rhetorical." And he says, "I know. Humans are almost as easy to tease as Vulcans." It's really good.
Yes, which is really great because it was something that I was talking to you about last week, I think. Basically, they did a retcon in episode 2 of Star Trek, the original series, where it was like, in the cage, Spock is a laughing fool, or he's just, grinning and shit. And then in episode 2, telling Kirk, he's like, "Ah, yes, one of your Earth emotions." He's pulling our chains, man. He's pulling like Spock's been screwing with humans for all these years.
Yeah. So part of the aesthetic of Spock that we all think about, and we're like, and people talk about like, Vulcans don't laugh, Vulcans don't do this. Part of it is that he's the only Vulcan, and he's kind of cheeky. And he he's playing with the crew when they make jokes, and he pretends not to understand. He's really like just poking at him. I like that retcon a lot.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not even really. It's like I said, it's like original series from number 1 to number 2.
Well, yeah, but the cage was technically not canon for a long time. I don't know if it. I guess
like a long time. Not a long time. It was like a few episodes until they didn't have the money to spend on 2 full episodes.
Right.
It was like this first season.
I guess I don't know how much of the cage exactly was used in the.
Most of it.
Most of it? Okay.
But even like in Mudd's Women, though, while like all the male crew members are falling over all these women that Mudd has and just staring at them and stuff, like Spock is leaning against a bulkhead just like smiling, just smirking at them like foolish humans.
Yeah.
Like he's definitely got like a sense of humor. Oh, even if he like slowly tries to be like, "No, I'm going to suppress that. I am Vulcan."
Yeah.
That ends up going away as soon as he like abandons the Colonar discipline in TMP. Because like then when we get back to him in the Wrath of Khan, he's lying and shit. He's still being Vulcan, but it's a slow progression for him throughout. Like slowly become more, go from not controlling it as much to trying really hard to control it, and then back to being like, logic is bullshit. The beginning of understanding, not the end. Valeris.
Yeah. And, this is actually a problem. This is stupid. This is me being stupid. But Freaky Friday episodes, sometimes I have an issue where like I have a trouble tracking who's who in the moment. Because I almost said, I was like sitting here thinking, I wish he had gotten to interact more with the character from that faction of Vulcans that doesn't follow logic. And then I was like, oh wait, he was the one that interacted with, like, I really like the whole episode. I'm sitting there going like, wait, who just said that? Right. Spock's in her. He's in, like Spock is in her. She's in Spock. And I kept having to like go back and forth. Like, oh wait, that's just stupidity on my part. Like not being able to track it.
Yeah, I did that a little bit too.
Yeah.
I'm bad about that stuff too. Yeah, that's why I don't like Freaky Friday episodes, because I'm not very bright.
Yeah, I was going to say that earlier about myself. I was like, that's my problem with them, is like I have a hard time following sometimes.
They're confusing. I don't like them.
Yeah,
it looks like Spock, but it's not Spock.
Yeah, exactly.
The Vatosh Couture, by the way.
Sounds like a name brand.
To me, it sounds like an evil organization. At Vatosh Couture, we're bringing you quality of life through virtual augmentation.
So I'm glad they interacted, but I kind of wish they discussed logic a little bit. Like, I'd like to see Spock sort of struggle with logic, be a little more, like, well-defined and, like, just a little more, like, episodically discussed, I guess. Like, the ideas behind the Vatosh Couture and T'Pring's ideas that things need to be a little more Vulcan in his life, like his decor.
Yeah.
It's in there for sure, but I want to see him struggling with it. I want to see him sort of like talk about it.
I mean, he literally had a dream where she enacted the challenge ritual, Caliphie.
Sure.
Because he's not Vulcan enough.
I agree, but that's not him talking about why. Like his own, like at this point, his thing is, I want to be more Vulcan. I am more Vulcan. But I would be interesting to see like if that Vatosh Couture guy had been able to like question the idea of devoting yourself to logic in an interesting way, and had Spock be able to respond to it or not respond to it and be like, well, that's an interesting point. You have, using logic, you've trapped me into this idea that my seeking of logic is a little illogical. I don't know. Like I'd love those kinds of discussions, but instead it was just like, hey, go bring this guy in and he's going to try to persecute you a little bit as a half human, you know?
Yeah. And then of course, Spock comes to the conclusion that there is no such thing as real logic, but do it, cleverly. So it's a metaphor for canon. Like Indeed. The real Star Trek fan has to come to the idea that there is no real canon.
Yeah.
Just watch it and feel hopeful for the future.
Yeah.
That nothing will ever matter.
You need to go watch everything everywhere all at once. Sorry.
I know. That's one of those things where it's I've kind of been like, sometimes I struggle with existentialism.
Yeah.
And one of the things that kind of pulls me back a little bit is Jerry Seinfeld is an existentialist, but he says, why does everyone always say that's a bad thing? That's perfect. That's great. Nothing matters. Do whatever you want.
Indeed. Do you want to go see Everything Everywhere All at Once today?
Oh gosh.
I'm down. I'm down to go again.
I don't know. Let me speak with my consort.
Yes, speak with your consort, and I am down to go today if you want to go.
We'll see.
It's it's just,
I do want to see it.
It's just great. Go see it, everybody. Everybody go see that movie. It is. I think I'm going to do a Bingers Assemble about it because I just think it's one of the best things I've ever seen.
Everybody see it everywhere, all at once.
Yes, please. All right, guys. I wish that had happened because I really want that movie to be successful. I wish they'd had like a killer opening because, man, it's so good.
Meanwhile, I'm laughing at the Morbius situation. What did you see that?
No, I think I saw something about it, but I didn't follow through and look into it.
Basically, because Morbius was trending so heavily on social media, Sony for some reason decided that they should re-release it in theaters, and they didn't realize that Morbius was trending because it was a meme.
That's so silly. How do you not?
It was being made fun of, and so they released it, and it bombed horribly. It made like $85,000.
Wow.
And I just was like, Sony, once again, we must remind you that social media is not real life.
Well, it's like social media is not real life, and also
it's a meme.
It's a meme. Like the context is important to these things.
We're making fun of it.
Yeah, trending because you're making fun. That doesn't mean there's like a big clamor. Now, if you had steered into it and put out like the Morbius cut with like if they had re-released Morbius in theaters with the Mystery Science Theater 3000 guys over the top of it,
yeah,
that might have done really well.
Yeah.
That might have done really well. But
maybe.
No, that's not what the thing is. That's not why everyone's excited. And I don't hate Morbius like everyone else does. I really don't.
Yeah.
But
I've heard that. Jason didn't dislike it.
I don't think it's bad. I think its attempts to connect to the MCU are bonkers, and it misses some real character moments that were really obvious. And it almost feels like it almost feels like they intentionally edited out character moments, because there's a couple character moments that they head towards, and then they just cut away, and then it goes to after that moment, and it's like it's almost like they filmed something, didn't like it, and then cut it, and instead of refilming it, they just had him say what happened after the fact, and it just feels like what in the world. So there's just a few weirdnesses like that, but for the most part, it's pretty good. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, I guess it's about time to get out of here.
Yeah, man.
This may be one of our longest episodes.
We chased some squirrels this episode.
For real. I was like, let's stick to things and try to do a quick one, because I got a lot to edit tonight, and now I have a lot more to edit.
Just, don't post it.
Yeah, I might post it tomorrow. Just don't post it, man. At all.
Yeah, this is for us.
That's true. That's true.
This is a relationship building tactic. Our numbers don't meet out that we're doing this for an audience.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's very true. This is very much a reason to hang out with my buddy Dave.
Yeah. You know why they don't listen? Because we spent 30 minutes talking about Star Wars.
Somebody tuned in and was like, did I click on the wrong show?
Yeah. It's like, welcome to the Star Trek universe. The podcast talks about Star Trek. Anyway, so Star Wars.
So how's that Obi-Wan treating you? It's like we're a Star Trek show that doesn't know with a difference.
I don't know, but I like that Bill Burr thing.
All right. Well, it was fun chatting with you, bud. I'll talk to you soon. Jolan True.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.